Okay, so today we're embarking on what feels like a truly monumental journey.
It really is.
We're going to be tracing the contours of, well, human memory and endurance all across Asia.
Hmm.
Our focus is on some of the continent's most mesmerizing wonders, from, the deep time geology of China's stone forests all the way to the hyper-modern ambition of a place like Singapore.
Right. And our mission here is to uncover these surprising connections that are held within these places, the way myth and reality and just sheer endurance are all intertwined.
And these aren't just pretty postcards, are they? We're talking about something deeper.
Oh, not at all. That's the fascinating thing. These locations, they're not static relics. They're dynamic archives.
Dynamic archives, I like that.
Yeah, they're like mirrors reflecting, the very best and sometimes the worst of human ambition, devotion, and I think this is critical, the extraordinary patience of time itself.
So for you listening, this deep dive is kind of a shortcut then.
It is. It's a way to understand the continent's vast ongoing story by focusing on these powerful, often conflicting narratives.
You mean like fragility versus resilience?
Exactly. The fragility of an ecosystem right up against the resilience of an ancient structure. Or, the glory of a vanished empire contrasted with the systems they left behind that are still working today.
I really appreciate that emphasis on dynamic contrast, because when you stand in the presence of something truly monumental, whether it's a 1,000-year-old temple or a mountain that's millions of years old, it feels like an invitation.
An invitation to what?
You're sort of subtly invited to feel like you belong to the world's vast, ongoing story. It's that feeling of awe and endurance washing over you, reminding you of the scale of history, not just your own little life.
Exactly. When you engage with these places, the timeline of your own life is just recalibrated.
Yeah.
You start measuring time not in decades, but in epochs. And that connection between the vastness of the Earth and the ambition of humanity is precisely where our deep dive begins, in those places where the Earth itself has been writing history for millennia.
So let's start there, with the silent, enduring power of these geological processes.
So do it.
We're heading straight to the realm of the magnificent stone pillars of Zhangjiajie in China. It's a place that just fundamentally redefines what a mountain landscape can even look like.
It really does. We are high in the Wolingwen scenic area, right in the heart of Hunan province. And this isn't just, a hilly area.
Yeah.
This landscape is dominated by an estimated 3,000 distinct quartz sandstone columns.
3,000. That's incredible.
And they literally pierce the mist, soaring more than 800 feet. That's nearly 250 meters into the sky. They're what's left of a plateau that's been fractured and eroded over millions of years.
So that scale is, well, it's hard to grasp. But what's the specific geological thing happening here? It's not your typical mountain building, is it?
No, it's defined by what's called differential erosion. The geology underneath is quartz sandstone, which is really resistant to weathering.
Okay.
But it's crisscrossed by these tectonic joints and fractures. Over time, water seeps into those joints, widens them, and all the softer material around the fractures just gets washed away much faster.
And that leaves these spires behind.
Exactly. This slow, patient process leaves behind these isolated vertical spires like nature's own sentinel towers, sculpted by the very elements that are trying to tear them down.
And this place has been protected, right? It wasn't just left as a natural curiosity.
No, not at all. It was established as China's first national forest park way back in 1982,
Wow.
specifically to protect this unique geological heritage. And later, of course, it cemented its status as a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
So that designation, it's celebrating both things.
Yes, both the millennia-old geological processes and the delicate, often hidden ecosystems they nurture. The soft green canopy clinging to the rock and the unique microclimates you find at the base of these massive structures.
It connects you to a timeline far older than any human record.
Precisely.
Okay, so if Zhangjiajie represents this vertical ambition carved by weathering, let's look at a landscape where geology meets water. Over on the northern coast of Vietnam, Halong Bay.
Ah, yes.
Here, myth and geology are intertwined in a completely different, almost serene way.
Halong Bay is a quiet spectacle. It's a prime example of what's called a drowned karst landscape.
Okay, break that down for us.
You have these emerald waters surrounding an archipelago of over 1,600 islands. And these are primarily monolithic limestone pillars.
And they're not small hills either.
Not at all. Their sheer faces rise as high as 600 feet, about 180 meters straight out of the sea. It's the constant, gentle persistence of water eroding rock.
And limestone is key to that, right?
Precisely. We're talking about limestone, which is soluble in slightly acidic rainwater. This process, which is called karstification, it hollows out the rock and eventually leads to these isolated towers or pinnacles. The slow, silent weight of time here is almost audible.
And the culture mirrors the geology. The name itself, Halong, means descending dragon. How does that myth connect to what we're seeing?
Well, the local tales speak of dragons descending from the clouds to protect Vietnam from invaders.
Okay.
They dropped jewels and jade from their mouths, and these jewels transformed into the islands and islets of the bay, forming this impenetrable barrier against enemy ships.
So they're literally seeing the geology as a divine protective act.
Yes, it's a foundational national myth. And what's fascinating is if you explore some of the larger islands, you find ancient grottos etched with prehistoric art. It proves that humans have been interacting with this specific geological wonder for thousands of years.
It's that balance of serene beauty with the silent weight of history and myth.
Perfectly put.
That's a wonderful transition. We've seen erosion by frost and water. Now let's look at a landscape shaped by fire and wind. Jeju Island in South Korea, a symbol of resilience and renewal.
Jeju is a phenomenal study in island geography. It's a shield volcano that rose right from the seabed, and it's dominated by Helsin Peak. You see its iconic volcanic cones, called Orum, dotting the island, rising above these massive stretches of dark basalt rock.
And Halasun is the centerpiece of all this, right? Ascending more than 6,000 feet. What makes its formation so key to Jeju's resilience?
Well, Helsin isn't just a high point. It's a living monument to time's patient artistry. It has a caldera with a lake at the summit. But the crucial part is the unique porous quality of the volcanic basalt.
Oh, so?
It acts as a natural filtration system. It creates this vast network of underground lava tubes and provides Jeju with an exceptional abundant supply of fresh, clean groundwater, despite its small size. It's geological resilience providing life.
But the island's human story is just as resilient. We have to talk about the Haenyeo.
Oh, we absolutely have to. The sea women.
They're often just described as famed female divers, but there's so much more than that.
They are truly exceptional. Their cultural importance is inseparable from the island's spirit. They represent this fierce, quiet tenacity.
And they're free divers. Right, no breathing equipment.
None. Diving to depths of 30 feet or more, holding their breath for several minutes, collecting abalone, conch, sea urchins. And what's critical is that this is historically a matriarchal economic force.
So these women are the primary earners in their villages.
That's right. Their stories of tradition and endurance, surviving in that cold sea, it's all woven into the island's culture. It shows how physical isolation can lead to this extraordinary cultural belonging and tenacity.
It's incredible.
So if the Earth writes history in stone and water, these next places, they really define endurance, not just geologically, but in terms of human ambition and sheer survival.
And for that, we have to move to the world's rooftop, the Himalayas and the shadow of Everest. The Himalayas are the definition of a natural barrier. I mean, they're this physical boundary separating the Indian subcontinent from the Tibetan plateau, a vast sweep of ridges in perpetual white where dozens of peaks rise over 20,000 feet.
Including Everest, of course, at over 29,000 feet. It's where achievement and awe are just carved into wind and ice.
And this environment demands a very specific kind of human adaptation.
It does. You have the Sherpa people who have woven their lives between these harsh seasons and their spiritual devotion. For them, the mountains aren't just obstacles to be conquered. They are Sagar Matha sacred entities, the mother goddess of the sky.
That spiritual devotion plays a crucial role in how they navigate life in the thin air, doesn't it? It's not just physical stamina.
Absolutely. It's a profound cultural and psychological resilience.
Yeah.
The spiritual dimension, which is heavily influenced by Tibetan Buddhism, means that every movement in this dangerous environment is governed by reverence and tradition, not just ambition.
And they have a biological adaptation as well.
A unique genetic ability to utilize oxygen efficiently at extreme altitudes. You combine that with their cultural role as essential guides and porters, and you have this frontier that is about both endurance and vulnerability.
And for any explorer trying to reach those heights on Everest, they have to cross a very specific, constantly shifting threshold, the Khumbu Icefall.
The Khumbu Icefall is notorious, even among the most elite climbers. It's a vast, dynamic river of luminous blue ice, clinging precariously to Everest's western edge.
It's that boundary between the familiar world of base camp and the mountain's mystery.
That's it.
The danger is relentless because it's so unstable. What creates that instability? What makes it so hazardous?
It's formed because the Kumbh Glacier is flowing rapidly over a very steep gradient. This stress constantly rips the ice apart, creating this ever-changing maze of crevasses and towering seracs.
Yeah, serac is. What exactly?
It's a huge block or column of glacial ice. They can rise more than 60 feet, so about 18 meters, and crucially, they can collapse instantly and without any warning.
So you need constant vigilance.
Absolute vigilance.
Who manages this dangerous boundary? It must be an incredible job.
That responsibility falls to the icefall doctors. They are an elite team of Sherpa climbers who take on the perilous, necessary task of establishing and maintaining the route through the icefall each climbing season.
So they're the ones setting up the ladders and ropes.
They are. Their work perfectly illustrates this dichotomy. You have the air crackling with anticipation and summit dreams, but their labor is a testament to the fragile silence and the ever-present weight of impermanence. They know the ice is always moving.
It balances that majestic serenity with just relentless danger.
Perfectly said.
Okay, let's step down dramatically from the freezing ice into the blazing heat. Let's pivot to the vast, arid frontier of Wadi Rum in Jordan. The resilience required here is entirely different.
Entirely. Wadi Rum is often called the Valley of the Moon. It's Jordan's wild heart, a landscape where time really does seem to slow down. You have these wave after wave of sandstone and granite mountains rising abruptly from the ochre sand.
And it has a deep human history.
For thousands of years, it's been home to nomadic tribes and traders who perfected the art of finding and conserving water in an unforgiving environment.
And they left traces behind, didn't they? The petroglyphs.
They did. These carvings, some dating back thousands of years, they often depict animals, hunting scenes. They show how crucial this area was as a crossroads. You can trace the movements of ancient peoples, including the Nabateans.
So the silence is deceptive.
Very. Yet holds the echoes of intense, organized traffic.
And in more recent memory, of course, it was the stage for T.E. Lawrence's campaigns in the early 20th century. How did the landscape itself shape his strategy?
Lawrence's success relied entirely on understanding the landscape the way the local Bedouin tribes did. This immense, seemingly trackless desert was, to the locals, a network of hidden trails, secret water sources, and tactical protection.
Right.
So what defines resilience here is that quiet knowledge required to survive the contrast between the harsh midday heat and the restorative power of the star-filled nights.
From the heat of Wadi Rum, let's shift to another desert, one with secrets of Earth's deepest past. The Gobi Desert in Mongolia, specifically the Flaming Cliffs.
The Flaming Cliffs, or Banyanzag, they're these waves of rich ochre and crimson rising dramatically from the pale desert floor. They literally glow with this otherworldly fire as the sun sets.
Hence the name.
Exactly.
And the story here is transformative. The world's understanding of its past, specifically dinosaurs, was forever changed right here.
Absolutely. The discovery was monumental. It happened in the early 1920s during the expeditions led by the American paleontologist Roy Chapman Andrews.
He wasn't even looking for dinosaur eggs, was he?
No, he was searching for the origins of humanity. Instead, he unearthed the world's first recognized dinosaur eggs.
What was the specific impact of finding those eggs 70 million years after they were laid?
Before this discovery, the scientific community didn't definitively know that dinosaurs were egg layers.
Right.
Finding fully fossilized eggs and later entire nesting sites proved this fundamental biological truth. It changed paleontology forever.
It's a powerful place to stand, I imagine.
You feel that vast hush between the deep past and the immediate present. The ferocity of prehistoric life once echoed across these silent cliffs, now stilled by the peace of shifting sands.
Those stories of deep time transition seamlessly into the monumental cities the humans have built.
They do. Which brings us to our next section, where we examine the testament of human ambition and the complex impermanence of great civilizations. The echoes of empire.
And we have to begin with Petra, the rose-red lost city in Jordan. The experience of even approaching it is a pilgrimage in itself.
It is. Navigating that narrow, sick gorge before it suddenly opens up to reveal the grandeur of Al-Khazna, the treasury.
Carved directly into the sandstone.
Directly into it. That moment is unforgettable. The Nabateans founded this city more than 2,000 years ago, and it thrived not just as a religious center, but as this integral trading hub. They were masterful middlemen.
But to sustain a massive city in such a dry environment, they must have had exceptional engineering. What was their secret?
This is the deep dive insight. The Nabateans were hydrological geniuses.
Okay.
Their success was entirely dependent on their control of water. They designed this sophisticated system of dams, cisterns, and conduits, all carved into the rock, that channeled the scarce seasonal rainfall.
So they could store huge amounts of water.
Vast quantities. It allowed them to support a huge population and, critically, to provision the endless caravans that passed through. Their trade routes stretched for hundreds of miles connecting east and west. The engineering made the commerce possible.
So why the abandonment? Was it an engineering failure?
It wasn't primarily a failure of their system. It was the geopolitical shifting of trade routes and a series of devastating earthquakes that gradually led to its decline. The silence there now holds the weight of empires that just vanished.
From one abandoned hub to another testament of devotion and ambition, let's talk about Angkor Wat in Cambodia.
Angkor Wat is just overwhelming in its scope and detail. It was built in the 12th century by King Suryavarman II, dedicated to Vishnu, and it embodied the absolute power of the Khmer Empire. The central complex is massive, but the greater city sprawled over 400 acres.
The artistry is phenomenal, we know that. Thousands of detailed bas-reliefs. But just like Petra, the sheer scale suggests an incredible unseen infrastructure. What's supported that kind of labor for centuries?
That is the essential deep dive component. The Khmer Empire was a hydraulic civilization.
A hydraulic civilization.
Yes. Their success, their ability to feed millions and build these monuments, it rested entirely on their mastery of water management. Specifically, their massive reservoirs called barrays.
These weren't just lakes.
No, they were engineering feats, some of them kilometers long, designed to capture enormous volumes of water during the monsoon season.
And why were they so critical?
They allowed the Khmer to control the flow of water and practice intensive rice cultivation, which meant multiple harvests per year. This massive agricultural surplus supported the population and the workforce needed to build Angkor Wat.
But the system became brittle.
Very. As the empire grew, the system became more complex. And climate stress, either severe drought or overwhelming monsoon floods, put immense strain on it. It's a major factor in the empire's eventual decline.
Moving west, across the plains of central Myanmar, we find another vast landscape of devotion. Bagan.
Bagan is a dramatic testament to fervent Buddhist piety. At sunrise, thousands of ancient temples and pagodas just emerge from the morning mist, their brick silhouettes scattered over 40 square miles.
The numbers are staggering. Built between the 9th and 13th centuries, this zone once held over 10,000 religious monuments.
It was driven by the Theravada Buddhist concept of karma, or merit. Monarchs, wealthy individuals, even common people built temples and stupas to accumulate merit for future lives.
Which led to this architectural explosion.
Exactly. The variety of temples, from huge walkable structures to small, intricate stupas, demonstrates centuries of diverse Buddhist artistry.
And Bagan holds the wonder of endurance and loss side by side. What happens when devotion ends, or when nature intervenes?
You see the raw consequences of time and seismic activity. Earthquakes, especially a massive one in 1975 and another in 2016, severely damaged hundreds of structures.
Which creates a tension.
A huge tension between preserving the heritage and local efforts to restore the sites, sometimes using modern materials that conflicted with UNESCO guidelines. Bagan really raises the question, what does a civilization leave behind?
And what quietly endures.
Exactly.
Let's follow the ancient caravan trails now to Samarkand, the great crossroads of the Silk Road in Uzbekistan. If Bagan speaks of faith, Samarkand speaks of global connection and splendor.
The heart of Samarkand is the Grand Registan Square. These luminous blue domes and intricate tilework just shimmer. The city's legacy is immense. It was admired by Alexander the Great over 2,000 years ago.
But its defining moment of splendor came much later, in the 14th century, under the reign of Timur, or Tamerlane.
Yes. Timur made Samarkand the capital of his dynasty and adorned it with these monumental mosques and madrasas whose colors still blaze after 600 years. And crucially, the Registan was the center of intellectual life.
It wasn't just a political and commercial hub.
No, it was a nexus of knowledge transfer. The Uluzbek Madrasa, for example, was built by Timur's grandson, who was not just a prince, but an accomplished astronomer and mathematician.
Wow.
So when you walk its avenues, you sense both the weight of imperial ambition and the intellectual hope carried along those endless caravan trails. It embodies humanity's quest for connection and knowledge.
The ambitions we've seen so far have been tied to empire, trade, and faith. But now let's look at architecture driven by a slightly different, more personal ambition: devotion, eternity, and love.
For that, we had to start with the ultimate testimony to undying love, the Taj Mahal in Agra, India.
It rises from the banks of the Yamuna River, holding this quiet, perfect majesty, commissioned in the 17th century by Emperor Shah Jahan as a mausoleum for his wife, Mumtaz Mahal.
The luminous white marble dome, reflected by still pools, framed by minarets that reach over 130 feet. It's a masterpiece of symmetry.
But the real artistry is in the detail, isn't it?
The detail is staggering. The entire structure is covered in pietra dura.
Which is?
The use of cut and fitted, highly polished colored stones to create images. Thousands of semi-precious gemstones, lapis lazuli, agate, jade, were meticulously inlaid into the white marble, forming these intricate floral patterns and flowing Persian calligraphy.
That must have involved a massive international workforce.
Absolutely. Craftsmen were brought from across the Mughal Empire in Central Asia, and the design itself has these complex visual cues. For example, the 4 minarets around the dome are subtly built to lean slightly outward.
Why is that?
So that in the unlikely event of a collapse, they would fall away from the central mausoleum. It's an architecture that defies the passage of time, carrying love's imprint far beyond stone or century.
From a mausoleum of love to a structure dedicated entirely to the spiritual journey, let's turn to Borobudur in Indonesia, the largest Buddhist monument in the world.
Borobudur, on the fertile fields of central Java, is less a temple and more a three-dimensional representation of the cosmos. It was built over 1,200 years ago, in the 9th century. When the mist swirls around it at dawn, it looks like a mountain peak emerging from the fog.
You describe it as a mandala in stone. We know the scale is huge, 9-layered terraces. But how is the structure itself a spiritual journey?
The genius of its design is intentional and symbolic. It represents the Buddhist cosmology. The 9 terraces are divided into 3 sections.
The world of form and the world of formlessness.
That's right. The lower 6 square terraces represent the world of form, and the 3 circular terraces above represent the world of formlessness.
So the path is literally built into the architecture.
Exactly. Walking its corridors is a circumambulation, a meditative journey. The lowest levels are covered with intricate bas-reliefs telling the story of the historical Buddha. As the pilgrim ascends, the reliefs become less narrative and more symbolic.
Until you reach the top.
Until you reach the circular terraces, which are almost bare, housing only these 72 serene, latticed stupas. The journey traces the path from the earthly plane to the unadorned peace of enlightenment.
Now let's look at a planned city, one built for political vision, defense, and hospitality. Jaipur, the Pink City, and the Amber Fort in India.
Jaipur truly radiates intentionality. It was founded in the early 18th century by Maharaja Sawai Jai Singh II, who was an avid astronomer and military strategist. He designed the city with remarkable mathematical precision based on ancient Hindu architectural tenets.
That's why it has such an orderly, grid-like structure.
Absolutely, a planned city from day one. And the famous pink color was actually a later addition, decreed in 1876 to celebrate the visit of the Prince of Wales, symbolizing openness and hospitality.
A tradition the city still maintains.
It does.
And the city's orderly design contrasts sharply with the rugged Amber Fort nearby.
Yes. The Amber Fort provides the contrast of defense and history. It rises majestically from the rugged hills, its sandstone walls stretching along ridges over 500 feet high.
Yeah.
Inside, it's a blend of Rajput and Mughal styles.
So it asks this interesting question.
It does. How are places crafted both to welcome the outside world with open boulevards and to defend the kingdom fiercely from those same outsiders?
As awe-inspiring as these monuments are, they often sit next to the world's most untouched yet vulnerable living places.
Which brings us to our next section, the living tapestry, biodiversity, and fragility. And we start in the Raja Ampat Islands in Indonesia.
Raja Ampat is often described as untouched wilderness meets ancient living waters. What makes this archipelago so important ecologically?
Geographically, it's situated right in the heart of the Coral Triangle, the most biodiverse marine area on Earth. It's this rare harmony of limestone islets scattered across a turquoise canvas. The statistics are astonishing. It boasts more than 1,000 kinds of reef fish and almost 600 species of coral. That figure represents roughly 75% of all known coral species globally.
That concentration of life is incredible. What makes its survival so precarious despite being so remote?
Well, wonder is truly humbling here, but so is the fragility. Because of its incredible density, any localized, stress-like destructive fishing or marine pollution has a catastrophic potential impact. And of course, as ocean temperatures rise, even these resilient ecosystems face the threat of coral bleaching.
Moving to another critical ecological zone, we arrive at Palawan in the Philippines, often called the last ecological frontier.
Palawan is defined by these dramatic limestone cliffs rising sharply from emerald seas, shadowing crystal lagoons and tangled mangrove forests.
And its most incredible natural wonder is the island's underground river, 5 miles of navigable water through a cave system.
The Puerto Princesa subterranean river is extraordinary. It extends for more than 5 miles, earning UNESCO recognition. It's the world's longest navigable underground river flowing directly into the sea. And the cave system itself features an entire ecosystem of endemic species.
But it stands at a crossroads, right? Preservation versus progress.
Absolutely. Palawan is under immense development pressure from mining and tourism, which constantly threaten its biodiversity. It constantly asks us to reconsider how human expansion can coexist with preservation.
A theme that's echoed in the Sarawak rainforest in Malaysia.
Very much so. We are talking about the vast, ancient primary forests on the island of Borneo, a living tapestry of ancient green stretching for more than 150 miles inland. Its age, millions of years, is mind-boggling.
It's home to indigenous peoples and incredible wildlife.
It is. It's renowned for its endemic wildlife, including the critically endangered Bornean orangutan, as well as the world's largest flower, the rafflesia. And it's the ancestral home of indigenous groups like the Ibon and the Penan.
But it's also facing relentless pressure.
From palm oil expansion and illegal logging. Standing inside, you feel that humbled awe, but also the delicate fragility woven through its ancient roots.
And finally, in this section, the Maldives atolls, where the spirit of impermanence is felt in every shimmering tide.
The Maldives are a breathtaking vision of coral rings tracing luminous blue pathways across the Indian Ocean. They were formed over thousands of years by coral polyps, building reefs on the rims of ancient subsiding volcanic cones.
A beautiful process, but the outcome is profoundly vulnerable today.
Profoundly. These tiny coral rings are the lowest lying nation on Earth. The islands barely reach 6 feet above sea level.
So every high tide is a threat.
Every high tide, every storm surge. Paradise here exists alongside existential uncertainty. It forces them to be on the absolute forefront of climate adaptation. Coastal erosion, salinization of fresh water. They're attempting innovative solutions like artificial islands, even floating city concepts.
We've spent time watching nature endure. Now let's look at how human culture endures with nature. Starting with the island of the gods, Bali.
Bali is a tapestry of ritual and artistry. Its unique Hindu-Balinese culture has survived as this resilient pocket of tradition. That reverence for ancestors and land is apparent in every detail, from the daily offerings of petals and incense to the elaborate temple ceremonies.
There's a calm layered beneath the vibrant ceremonies. The sacred and the everyday coexist.
And that coexistence, that deep harmony, is physically embodied in their agricultural system, the Subak rice terraces.
An enduring symbol of harmony between people and land. How is the system organized?
The local communities sculpted these massive slopes using Subak, which is not just an irrigation system, but a democratic, cooperative, and spiritual institution dating back to the 9th century. And it's governed by the philosophy of Trihita Karana,
Which means
3 causes of prosperity: harmony among people, harmony with nature, and harmony with the divine. The water flow is regulated by water temple priests, acting as liaisons between the human community and the divine forces of the landscape.
But it's facing modern challenges.
From tourism and development that threaten to pull farmers away from their ancestral lands, it's a constant struggle.
Further north in Vietnam, we find the Sapa Mountains, another incredible example of endurance carved into the land.
Here, mists drift across vast stretches of terraced rice paddies carved into extraordinarily steep hillsides, reaching heights of over 5,000 feet. These were cultivated over generations by communities like the Red Dao and the Black Hmong.
So this is vertical agriculture, mastered with simple tools.
It is a story of sheer perseverance, where the mountains are both a sanctuary and an intense challenge, demanding relentless physical labor to sustain life.
And if we move eastward to Laos, we find Luang Prabang, a city where tranquility seems to slow the passage of time.
This former royal capital is perfectly situated at the meeting of the Mekong and the Nam Khan rivers. It's a UNESCO site, famous for those early morning mists and the saffron-robed monks moving in silent procession.
The city's unique ambiance comes from its blended architecture.
Beautifully preserved traditional Lao temple structures, sitting right next to French colonial villas, it reflects a history of both deep isolation and foreign influence. And the tranquility weaves through daily rituals, like the alms-giving ceremony.
But how does a city maintain that stillness in a rapidly globalizing world?
That's the challenge. The community actively chooses to prioritize conservation and tradition over unchecked commercial growth. It's a critical example of cultural preservation.
And for a final look at community and land, let's explore Paro Valley in Bhutan, a nation famous for prioritizing gross national happiness.
Petra Valley is the gateway to the nation's soul. The silence here feels profoundly sacred, enhanced by the ubiquitous prayer flags spreading blessings on the wind.
And the ultimate monument to this devotion is the Paro Takseng Monastery, or Tiger's Nest.
Perched nearly 3,000 feet above the valley floor.
An architectural marvel of sheer determination.
It is. It's built onto the side of a granite cliff, rooted in the myth of Guru Rinpoche flying there on the back of a tigress in the 8th century to meditate.
So the valley represents this negotiation between isolation and welcome.
Precisely. Bhutan deliberately maintained a policy of isolation for decades to preserve its environment and unique culture. It shows us that every remote place must balance cultural integrity with the need for connection.
As fascinating as these ancient and wild places are, we have to look at how contemporary cities and protected sanctuaries balance technological ambition with ancient memory.
Which brings us to our final section, modern icons and urban echoes.
And let's begin with an ancient retreat in one of the world's most modern countries, Arashiyama and the Sagano Bamboo Grove in Kyoto, Japan.
Arashiyama has historically been a retreat for emperors and poets. The path through the Sagano Bamboo Grove is extraordinary sunlight, filtering through millions of towering emerald stalks. The air is cooler, stiller.
And there's a unique sensory element here, isn't there?
There is. The sound of the wind moving through the bamboo has been designated by the Japanese government as one of the country's 100 soundscapes. It elevates it beyond mere visual spectacle. Nearby, the iconic Tikitsukyo Bridge arches across the river, linking history, nature, and the fleeting seasons. You feel both impossibly small and profoundly connected.
Rising above the urban sprawl nearby is Japan's silent icon, Mount Fuji.
Mount Fuji is a truly sacred symbol, a near-perfect volcanic cone rising serenely over 12,000 feet. It acts as a mirror for the nation's spirit. For centuries, poets, pilgrims, and painters have been drawn to its shape.
What's the spiritual significance beyond its beauty?
Fuji is central to Shintoism and mountain worship. It's believed to bring luck and inspiration. For centuries, ascending the mountain was considered a purely spiritual act. The challenge today is balancing that significance with the massive influx of recreational climbers.
It asks not just to be seen, but to be pondered.
Exactly.
Now, for a monumental leap into the 21st century, Gardens by the Bay in Singapore. Nature, but engineered.
Gardens by the Bay is the highly successful centerpiece of Singapore's city and a garden strategy. It covers over 250 acres of reclaimed land. It's a deliberate, highly technical statement that futurism and environmental responsibility are not mutually exclusive.
The features are colossal. The glass conservatories and the massive super trees. Tell us about the function of those super trees.
They're not just decorative, they're vertical gardens and environmental systems. These gigantic structures harvest solar energy, collect rainwater, and function as air vents for the conservatories.
So steel and soil are intertwined.
They are. It celebrates technological ambition and fragile greenery simultaneously. It asks how every dense concrete city might reimagine its connection to the earth.
Finally, let's look at the restless heart of South Korea, Seoul, and the Han River.
The Han River Valley is the historical cradle of the city. The river itself runs over 300 miles bisecting the city, and it reminds us that cities too carry the memory of water and mountain.
Historically, it was vital, a boundary and a lifeline.
And today, it embodies the speed of South Korea's transformation. It was heavily polluted after the Korean War and the intense period of industrialization.
But the miracle on the Han River.
That's right, but massive cleanup efforts have transformed it into this clean, recreational corridor, linking communities that have constantly rebuilt and reinvented themselves.
Amid the constant motion of the city, the river's calm waters contrast with the thrum of endless traffic.
And that contrast holds this powerful sense of hopeful promise. The river's transformation suggests that change is not just survival, but renewal. It reflects the resilience of the Korean people.
This has been an incredible traverse, charting human ambition and natural wonder across a continent. We've seen how every location, from the fiercely moving danger of the Khumbu icefall to the quiet perfection of the Taj Mahal, holds endurance and vulnerability side by side.
And we've learned that the true deep dive reveals the specific systems that underpin these wonders. We've seen memory written in the hydrological genius of the Nabateans, the Khmer, the spiritual mathematics of Borobudur, and the cooperative systems like the Subak terraces in Bali.
And that is the true value of this journey. These monumental landscapes invite you to listen deeper, to sense the stories the Earth still holds, whether it's the ancient volcanic resilience of Jeju or the intentional engineered vitality of gardens by the bay. They quietly shape the human heart.
Though we have crossed oceans and centuries, from the Gobi Desert's transformative dinosaur eggs to Singapore's futuristic ecological design, the essential question remains for all of us. How deeply can these places, wild and raw, shape the way we remember ourselves, our priorities, and our collective destiny? What will we choose to protect, and what wisdom will we share each time we cross the water to somewhere new?